Okay, that's not what I want. Hello, early birds. You're going to probably hear some chatter here for this webinar. I want to welcome you, though. We do have a number of folks who have joined already. Every now and again, we will be jumping in to introduce the topic and let you know that that we're here. But if you can hear me right now and you have a moment to pop hello in the chat box or question box, please do so. My name is David Jost. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Ariba, and we'll be starting in at as close to 2 o'clock Eastern time as we possibly can, so not too far away. Hello, everyone. My name is David Jost. I'm Chief Marketing Officer with Ariva, and I just wanted to welcome those of you who have joined us. We're going to be starting in just about 3 minutes. Probably give you one more warning ahead of time to let you know that we'll be starting. And this is 3 reasons why your board doesn't fundraise and how to change that now. We'll be starting again in just a little under 3 minutes. And if you would be so kind as just to say hello, or you can hear us okay at this point, that would really be helpful. Just go ahead and enter that in the chat box or in the question box if you want. Those are right on your control panel for your Zoom session. So again, we'll be starting shortly. Okay, thank you so much for those of you who let me know the sound is terrific. It's still my voice, but I'm sure it sounds terrific. So, all right, thank you. Welcome again to those of you who are joining. We'll be starting shortly. We have a very full house today. We have some folks that we probably will exceed capacity today. So I know people are logging on fast and furious right now. We will, however, for those of you on who have asked the question, we will be providing an on-demand recording, and this will be something that's available sent out to every registrant as well as to anyone who wants to go to ariva.com after the session. A reasonable amount of time after the session to be able to render the recording. So just letting you know that. Again, we'll be starting in just about 2 minutes with today's workshop. Okay, welcome everyone. I want to welcome those who are joining. They're joining at such a furious rate. I'm kind of an inside joke here. If this was a live webinar, people would be elbow to elbow trying to smash through the doors. So I'm going to let a few folks filter in here while I just cover a few housekeeping things for everyone. At the point that I start, I'll give everyone a heads up, just that there'll be a brief pause so we can get a good clean recording, because today's session will be recorded in its entirety and it will be sent out to each of you, as well as to anyone who registered, following the webinar once we've had a chance to put that together. So that'll be coming out to you. So I would just tell you for today, a couple of housekeeping things. Feel free to take notes. Don't feel compelled to. Everything that you're seeing today will be sent to you in a full presentation so you can sit back and enjoy. And we would love to have you interact. We'll be talking more about that. Today's session is 3 reasons why your board doesn't fundraise and how to change that now, featuring Barbara O'Reilly. So fundraising expert. We'll talk more about her and introduce her in just a moment. It's going to be a great session. As you'll see on my background, I don't own a stitch of green. I'm one of those guys, but I do have a little greeting, as today is St. Patrick's Day, and I would say it's our lucky day because you've joined us, and we're so glad to have you here. It's also your lucky day. You're going to really be learning some great things today, so we look forward to having this conversation. So with that, I'm going to actually get started. So again, there'll be a brief pause. I will let you know right now, before we do that, that you have a questions box in your control panel. If you haven't used Zoom or haven't used it in a while, you can answer questions there at any point. You can ask questions. You can go back and forth from that, and we would love to have you do so. You also have a chat box. So if you want to test that out, go ahead and say hello. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what you're doing this St. Patrick's Day, aside from joining us for this, or just let us know about the weather. We're going to be having a great session today. So with that, here we go. Welcome to today's interactive workshop webinar. This is 3 reasons why your board doesn't fundraise and how to change that now, featuring Barbara O'Reilly. I'm going to give you a little bit of a intro to what we're going to be doing today. We're just going to give you a little view of what's ahead here on this journey. So this is our agenda as it were. We're going to be having a welcome and introductions. You'll have a chance to meet Barbara, and we'll be talking a little bit about her background. We want to hear from you. So you're going to see that interspersed throughout today's session. You're not required to participate, but I can tell you that there is proof positive that participating helps you to really take that information in and be able to learn. So please do, and we'd love to hear from you. In today's session, not necessarily broken out this way, but we are going to be addressing 3 common complaints about boards and fundraising, best practices to ensure your board is set up for success, and solutions to turn your board into fundraising superstars. So pretty big promise there, but we hope to deliver. We're also going to be addressing questions and answers and having a full session there as well. And with that, I'm actually going to give you an introduction to my friend and our partner at Arriva here, Barbara O'Reilly. This is now our 2nd session together. We're planning on doing another one we'll be announcing soon for next month. They're just really meant to help you do what you do better, to be able to do good better. So we're going to be sharing that. And I have this, so you'll see me looking down because Barbara has a phenomenal background and I don't want to miss a thing. So I'll do my best not to look like I'm reading, but I am. This is the bio for Barbara. She is CFRE. She is principal of Windmill Hill Consulting, and she has nearly 30 years of annual fund, major gifts, campaign fundraising experience at major nonprofit organizations, including none other than Harvard University, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Oxford University in England, and the American Red Cross. Her consulting firm, Windmill Hill Consulting, helps nonprofit organizations of all sizes cut through the noise and develop a profitable fundraising strategy that focuses on the resources, skills, and tactics they need to build more effective donor relationships and catapult their revenue. She serves as immediate past president of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, AFP, in Washington, D.C. for the Metro chapter, and as a former member of the advisory panel for Rogere, the fundraising think tank in the UK. She is a frequent guest presenter at national and international conferences, and she's on various webinars hosted by very many organizations, including AFP, as we'd shared, as well as others. She earned her CFRE accreditation in 2015, and she became an AFP master trainer in 2018. Like I said, it's your lucky day. So welcome, Barbara. It's good to be with you again today. And I didn't know if you wanted to give any hello out to the folks before we get started.
Yeah, no, thanks, David. It's great to be back. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to talk to so many fearless fundraisers from across the country today about one of my personal soapbox issues.
That's great. So I will tell you, and we're going to share a little bit about this too. We hope there are lots of board members on this session as well. We love our board members. We love our boards. They're an incredibly important part of every organization. And so this is a very fun way of sort of putting it and helping you to be able to get the boards to fundraise and do what they want to do and you want to do. We're going to bring people together today. So this will be terrific. I am David Jost. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Arriva. I am, more importantly, the moderator and also co-participant in this, but that's who I am. And I'm going to basically just start off by letting you know that we want to hear from you. So at any point during the conversation, if you want to drop a line in the chat, you want to put a question out there about anything that you've seen or anything that pops into your head, do so. My job is to moderate. I'll be bringing many of those into the conversation. We'll also be connecting on with you on as many of those as we can at the end. You can do so in the chat box or the question box. And so to get this whole theme started here of having you participate, we're going to start with just giving you a little bit of a heads up here by just letting you know there are some questions that you need to ask yourself right now. So we turned it around a little bit. And Barbara, do you want to cover those?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the things that we really are going to be talking about today are, do you have the right people on your board? That seems like the most obvious question to start with, but it really comes down to recognizing what are all the components that that define the ideal board member for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about how we manage expectations. Do the board members, you know, and having served on boards, have worked with boards for many years, both in-house and now as a consultant. I agree with David. We love our boards, and they are always best, and most often, more often than not, best intentioned, but they need some guidance. So do they know what you want them to do to help with fundraising? So we'll talk about that. And then finally, do they have the training and the tools? As many board members as successful as they are in their own personal and professional lives, the reality is when it comes to doing something like fundraising, they actually do probably need a little bit of training. They probably, it makes it easier for them to have the tools and things that can make it turnkey for them, so that they can really be the superstars that we know that they are. So we're going to dive into all of these questions throughout the course of our webinar today.
It's great. And as we're moving forward, I would actually like to, at this point, it's not going to be, we're going to be using some polls throughout to ask some questions, but I'd like you to just participate, as many of you as possible. We're not going to call you out specifically unless you say, hey, go ahead and let me know. But what we'd love to ask you is what kinds of, I'm not even going to call them complaints, but it's sort of that, you know, we air out what our challenges are. What are the things that you're facing in terms of challenges when it comes to having your board fundraise? And I don't know if you want to ask that a different way, Barbara, but I just throw that out. I think it'd be helpful for what's up next.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to ask that question. What are the pain points? What are the challenges? What are the things that you feel are untapped opportunities that you want to really dig into with your boards? It'd be great to hear what's on people's minds.
So I'm going to give you just a moment to do that as we look at this, and then we're going to be talking about some of the more common complaints, but as we move forward. But I would love to have you do that. If you could just chime in, we are getting a few folks there with some responses, but just let us know. You know, what are the things that that you have on your mind? And I want to let you know this is a very responsive session today. So we have an agenda. We've made slides and everything, right? But we are going to adjust, and we always do. This is interactive. If you bring up things that aren't specifically covered here related to boards and why they don't fundraise, you may find the answers, even though we weren't planning to specifically head down that path. So I'm seeing things like, you know, simply getting them to make the ask. When do you do training for your board? A bit frustrating, but when my board members commit to serve and then ghost us, getting board members to do the ask, the same thing there, right? When do you do training? Again, commitment and accountability. Oh my gosh, they're rolling in too fast for me to see. I was looking here. I'm going to open this up a little bit wider.
I am nodding my head vigorously. Yep.
You literally are coming in. So okay, get it all out, folks. Get it all out. All right. Getting them to engage in helping to promote our event campaign, low engagement, introducing more people to our organization. Our community is small and rural. Many board members are on multiple boards. Oh, that's a good one. They're all great. Getting board members to join you for the intro meeting with a prospect that they've identified. So they've identified it, but then you're kind of on your own, right? Getting board members to make introductions so our staff can do the ask. Lack of advocacy in our community. Someone put up pain points, not right people on the board. The board is aware they should give. Many don't. It's almost a taboo subject. We have a new fundraising department, the first and this is for a school, the first in the school's history. You guys, thank you. we're lucky to have you on this session because there's so much good stuff here that fits in. Feeling that fundraising is the only focus, boards who confuse hosting an event without an ask as a fundraiser, settling for the same old because they're afraid to take risks. It's not my job. Overwhelmed by meeting requests, but also asking for more training, overworked board members versus organization with staff. Someone else has the same issue. Everyone is seeing these. You all are seeing them. So I'm not going to read through all of them, but they just keep coming in. The ebb and flow of commitment. Oh yeah. So it comes, stops and starts, and the surge in participation in other areas other than fundraising, lots of ideas with little execution, getting them past the, if I ask X for money, X will turn around and ask me for money. The board is not in tune, they want someone else to do the work. Ours see themselves more of an HR group than supporting the mission. This is great stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and that's a perfect segue to our next session here, which is 3 complaints about boards and fundraising. And I think most of these are covered here. So we're going to go ahead and see if this is something you can relate to. So we'll give you a chance to respond back to that as well. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, so this is the first most common complaint I hear, and I see it also that's reflected in a lot of the comments. So my board isn't made up of the right people. So we'd love to just, get a temperature check. How many of you can relate to this? Not the right people.
So I'm seeing the results here. I'm going to share them out to everyone as well when I'm done. But we are looking at a resounding yes. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, we put in I'd rather not say, and of course, the thing is that you may be looking at this and just jokingly, you might want to remain, anonymous and kind of saying whether you can relate at this point. So please let us know. But we have a few folks. So if I'm going to say I'd rather not say is probably a yes.
Most
and
likely.
if just one more moment, anyone want to answer, go ahead and do so. Answer the poll. Otherwise, I'm going to close it on 3, 2, 1. And we now have the results, as you should be seeing right now. So, you're looking at 77% who, for all intents and purposes can relate to this, right? So you're not alone. And then, again, speaking of lucky, we've got the 22%, 23% who can't relate to this at all or are unwilling to admit it.
That's fantastic, though. I'm glad to see it as high as it is.
Yeah.
It's 22%. That's fantastic. Well, and then the reality is that when we think about boards and the right people on their boards, there are a lot of things that go into that governing responsibility. And this, when Board Source a couple of years ago, I think it was in maybe 2017 or 18, issued their Leading with Intent report, and they do it, I think, every couple of years. And they do sort of a temperature check on with CEOs and the board leaders themselves through sort of national surveys to get a sense of where they feel their strengths and their areas for growth, we'll say, are. And overwhelmingly, both CEOs and boards felt that their strengths are understanding the mission, financial oversight. They feel like they've got that down. But then in terms of like the general performance, they start to, we see things like being able to support the CEO a little bit more, really understanding their roles. Maybe there could be some improvement there. Thinking strategically, how often do we see our boards getting stuck and mired in the day-to-day things or month to month, however frequently they meet. Really sticking to that strategic plan, which again ties to that thinking, being able to think strategically, monitoring that performance. So again, that's an area that they all feel like they could, improve, but absolutely look right here. Fundraising, it is almost always at the bottom of the list. And I've been tracking this report for a number of years as it's over the, the last 10 years or so. And fundraising it actually was an F. If they did like a little grade, one report was an issue, was like a report card, literally like a report card.
Yeah.
And it was an F, and then so it's actually improved a little bit, but look here, increasing board diversity. I know that was in comments in the chat as well. That has barely moved the needle. And so fundraising is the overwhelming area that needs to be addressed, and board diversity, but these two are consistently challenge areas for them. So
that's quite a report card. That's a report card. I'm not going to say I can relate, but that's the one where you sort of hold your hand over the bottom while you're showing it to your parents. And so, right. But we're here to help you change that.
So I love this quote from Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, because it encapsulates. Now, in his book, he was talking about what were the defining characteristics that really helped to catapult the highest performing companies from where they were at some point in their evolution to how they became really great companies. And I really think it applies so well to boards. And it comes down to, do you have the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats? And in a lot of ways, that's so applicable to how we have to think about our boards. So, doing an evaluation, and we're going to talk about this later about the board evaluating themselves, but as executive leaders and nonprofit leaders yourself, you really do want to be working with your board leadership to look at, who do you have now on your board? This is one matrix. There are a number of others. This only covers areas of expertise, but there are other qualifications like geographic representation, demographic and ethnic representation, gender representation, and so forth. So there may be some other things that you will want to be able to track, and actually you really should be tracking. But this is one way to map it out, to determine who do you have that sort of fits into these categories. And where do you have the gaps? And then how many of those potential new members will you need to fill in those gaps? So for example, you might say that you may have some increasing legal needs. Perhaps you're going to be merging with another organization, or you have some growth plans that are going to require a different set of governing expertise. So you might say, we need some more board members who've got legal and financial professional responsibility. And if you don't have that now, that's where your governance committee can start to more strategically recruit for those kinds of members. Doing this gap analysis, if you would, or this matrix, helps you to see the core responsibilities for the board and who you have and who you're going to need in lots of different ways. And it becomes much more like recruiting for a job, where you are very clear in your job description, what kind of board member you're going to need, and then you can be more focused in who you're reaching out to, as opposed to, we'll take anyone who wants to be on our board. Very, very different. And that's one of the things that you really want your board members and your governing committee or your nominating committee, whatever you call it, to be thinking about and using this as their roadmap.
Great. I'm going to move to the next slide here.
And so your ideal potential board members not only are fitting into the categories where you have the biggest areas of need in terms of all those the categories that are going to be on that matrix, as one of the examples from the previous slide, but also thinking about the ideal board member is someone who really does believe in your mission. And I know, again, that sounds obvious, but I can't tell you how many boards I've worked with where there's sort of a mix of board members who, they get behind the mission, but it isn't really their core passion. And it definitely shows in how they show up for the board meetings, how they engage in their governing responsibilities. So you, first and foremost, you want to ensure that your board members do align with your mission, and this is something that fits into their philanthropy. When we think about major donors or large gift donors, for example, that absolutely has to be a criteria that you evaluate. And it's so very much the same for board members. They have to believe in this. It has to be a top priority, so that when you're asking them to give to you as an organization, it is one of their top 3 charities. Access, for sure. This is who has those connections to your ideal board members that you start to identify, so that it doesn't feel like a complete out of the blue, cold call. Nobody wants a cold call. So do you have those right degrees of separation, if you would? And then certainly the financial capacity. So we'll talk about this in a little bit, about the giving and getting kind of model, but you really do want to be considering not just the financial capacity for larger gifts, but also what else they can bring to the table in terms of networks, in terms of other expertise or in-kind contributions that they can facilitate or can give themselves. So there are definitely some boards that are only, that are very clear in very large gift expectations for annual gifts. Those board members all have net worths of certain amount or gift capacity of a certain amount. And that's a very different board. I think for most boards, for 99% of the boards in this country for nonprofits, you really do want to think about how do you balance that capacity question.
Great.
So second complaint I often hear, my board isn't a fundraising board, and I saw this also in some of the comments as well. The reality is that, you know, and we see this in the reflections from the board source report. Most boards don't think that they're fundraising boards. They think that they have a lot of room for growth. So the point about this is that we want to ensure that they understand what it means to become a quote unquote fundraising board. So let's do a little temperature check here. How many of you can relate to this? My board isn't a fundraising board. Maybe you think that, or maybe they think that. Maybe you both think that.
Great. We're getting answers coming in here again. Looks like even higher results at this point. I'm just gonna give it a moment. Answer as quickly as you can, and we'll share this out so you'll be able to see and feel much more comforted here. So, someone just said, I wonder if it's the board members saying no, but I don't know that that's a fair question. They may very well be saying they can relate to it because they're very aware that they need more resources. So very good. So, okay, I'll give it just a countdown here from 5. If you want to answer, we'll make sure that we include that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're going to end that, and I'll let you see the results. So, Barbara, can you see that now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
88%.
88%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not saying.
You've got to count that. I can't imagine you wouldn't say if you wanted to say no, right? You'd speak up loud and clear. And so that is amazing. Yeah, terrific. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that so you can see, and we'll move forward from there into this section.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always start with when I'm doing a board training is that I dispel the myth that fundraising is only about asking for money. Because yes, of course it is, right? At the end of the day, it's about being able to solicit funds for your mission, to reach your budget goals, to do more of your mission delivery. But for board members, there are many different roles that they can play to advance that fundraising. And, you know, let's be honest, fundraising is about building donor relationships at its most basic level. The funds will follow when those donors feel engaged, when they feel inspired, when they feel valued. So fundraising is so much more than asking for money, and it correlates then to the different roles that board members can play. They can be cultivators. So that's where they're, you know, maybe just given lots of different issues within their life. Maybe they've got some, you know, if they're, I think someone put in a comment that they are, you know, some board members are serving on multiple boards. So maybe they just want to identify because they don't want to get too in the weeds with building relationships because they're serving them. They've got competing demands. That's fine. And so there's one way that they can play a role by maybe identifying some potential donors. Maybe they're reviewing lists from other organizations to see who else they may know. Maybe they're also looking at foundation boards to see where they may have some connections to connect with your organization. That's absolutely fine. Ambassadors, so that might be where they are hosting some events, or they're all committed to attending events that you're organizing, and they're playing a role of being a host. I'm involved with an organization here near where I live, and their board members all wear name tags, and at every event, they are circulating through and welcoming every single person who's at that event. That really speaks volumes, right? Because you know that they are personally, you know, welcoming, literally personally welcome every guest who is at their events. The closer, so there may be some board members who are absolutely fine being part of a donor relationship building where it then becomes they're part of that ask at the end. Absolutely fine. That's not going to be the role for every board member. So it's your job then as the fundraising leaders and executive leaders to understand who are those board members who can do that and feel comfortable.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead, David.
So I was just going to say, I'm going to pause here for a moment because I've got some questions. I finally caught my breath from sharing all the feedback on the previous one. So keep it up, folks. I want to just, I have some questions that may relate to this or even the previous section that I think are pretty relevant. I will just tell you, we have a lot of different comments coming in still on some of the challenges. So I know you're probably seeing these as well. But, there were some out here like just understanding the difference between personal commitment, their gift, and gives, that they help solicit the get, which I know we're going to talk about, so we can address that. How to re-energize your board, making a gift to an annual fund versus at a special event. Something as simple as getting a silent auction, little to no support, won't reach out to their contacts. They only engage around the time of the meeting, leveraging their contacts, which we're going to talk about. There's some great ways to do that. And then here's a question. I'm just going to call it out because it's kind of kudos to a great partner, Ryan Wardnecki, who's with Donor Search, which is a great partner of ours, fully integrated with our system, and they put out some good content in their own right. But he's asking, from a great point of knowledge, do you always need all of those skills represented on a board?
So you need as many of those skills as you need for where you're taking the organization. So it really does come down to looking critically at, and I don't mean critically as a negatively, but very critically at what's your strategic plan outlining for the way forward, and then what are those expertise, those areas that you're going to need at the governing level that you don't have represented on the board, on the staff level, for example. But what do you need to help you move forward? If you had all of those areas, then you'd have a really large board, and I'm not a big fan of super large boards. So it's being able to understand exactly which of those skills are critical, are mission critical, to make sure that they're all collectively steering the organization in the right direction.
Yeah. And another piece to that just kind of went on in the chat. There's a whole separate webinar, totally related, happening in the chat board. It's beautiful. There was just a comment that it's really related to the specific skills, and the specific plans you have and the needs, as you said. What is it that you need? And then also kind of looking at, I guess, even as you're bringing board members on, what kinds of things are you doing to really complement where you have other skills as well, or just coordinate with that. Yeah. We had a comment that the slides will be shared. We had people saying it seems like everything comes down to training and expectation. I'd agree to an extent. We have a very generous board with talented people, but individually they have differing levels of comfort with other fundraising components. What would you say to that?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why identifying the exact role that they want to play, and accepting that there are all of these roles have equal weight of importance in building those donor relationships. And so if we as nonprofit leaders are always just putting 100% pressure on, that every board member has to be asking, you're going to rub up against sort of resistance and frustration, and on both sides, and you will not necessarily empower them to do the things that they're most comfortable doing and that they will want to do. So we can just go back 1 second for 1 second, David. So the other two things that I would say in all these different roles is that the two I always say, both when I'm on a board and when I'm training boards, is that donor and steward are the two non-negotiable job responsibilities. Yeah. Every board member should be giving of some level. That we'll talk about in a little bit. Every board member should be stewarding. They should be taking a couple calls, writing a couple notes, because that really does make a difference. And I'll explain in a little bit why. And then, all these others, it comes down to identifying what are the ways that they can play you can come up with specific activities that fall in these categories. But this has to be sort of discussed at the full board level, so that they can see where they best fit.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
okay, let me move ahead now. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, this came, two of friends of mine and colleagues did a report a number of years back that was looking at major gift fundraising in smaller to mid-sized nonprofits. And one of the things that came out of that study was the role of the boards. And it is just a great illustration of how boards are integral to creating what we call this culture of giving. You might hear it called a culture of philanthropy. I like culture of giving because it's just a little bit clearer. But if we think about all the other governing responsibilities that a board is expected to carry forward, there are things around transparency and accountability, for sure. So they are leading through by demonstrating integrity. They're inspiring others because they're leading by example. So they're creating that sense of community. They are welcoming donors. So they're again setting the tone for hospitality. And they're also embodying gratitude. They're thanking donors. And, if we think about it in this way, these are all the ingredients for an engaged and valued and appreciated donor audience. So they have to be serving in this way. They have to be contributing in this way. So it is essential that we find the right ways that they will want to do these, to support these different areas.
Do as I do, not as I say, I guess, really, right? I mean, it's what it comes down to. The next piece is what we talked about with a little humor here, but this was related to one of the questions. So great.
Yeah. So give or get, or give and get, and then there's the very lovely give, get, or get off, and so we leave it. The get off part is up to you. It depends. It really depends on your organization. I have seen give or get. I have seen give and get. It comes down to what is going to be the right model for the culture on your board. So in other words, if you have never set expectations for any of this, you might just dip your toes in the water and just say, we ask you to give or get a certain amount, perhaps. And then you can work with each individual board member to determine what that give or get is. The give and get could be something that is, if you are feeling like this is a board that's going to step into this really robustly in their responsibilities, then yeah, maybe you say we have a give and get expectation of whatever, because your board member giving at the end of the day is really, they're the innermost circle for your organization. And if they don't have financial skin in the game, then why should other people? So they are demonstrating by leading in their own giving. It also is connected to sometimes foundations. Foundations will ask often, do you have 100% board giving? And if you can't say yes, again, foundations don't look very kindly on that. And so the other aspect of this is that when board members have their own financial investment, if you would, in the organization, they are probably going to pay a little bit more attention because they've got some financial contributions that they're going to be monitoring and sort of seeing how it's used. So it, ultimately, whether you do a give or get, or whether you do a give and get, you're going to have to really test the waters with your own board and what they feel comfortable doing. But it's always about setting expectations and managing those expectations.
So we have a question that I believe you'll be addressing in the next slides, but I'm just going to tee it up because I think it's a great segue. It's often a struggle to get 100% board participation, not even at a specific amount. How can we address that?
I would address it head on.
Yeah.
I would be talking to the board members who are resistant, of course, one-on-one, privately, one-on-one, and asking them what's holding them back from making a gift of any amount. And they might be embarrassed because there might be some things there's some challenges, or they may not be philanthropically minded as well. I was just on a call earlier this week with a board, and I heard all sorts of resistance about this idea. They were sort of moving into this discussion around giving, 100% board giving, and there was all sorts of unexpected resistance. And so that warrants a separate conversation to understand, do you support other organizations generally, or is it something about this organization? Are there things that are questions or issues that we need to address now? So I would say have that private conversation to understand what is really at the core of that decision.
That's terrific. And a couple other questions here, and if you want me to move ahead, just let me know if it's on these slides. Just for memory's sake, I think these are unique. Our boards tend to get their corporations to give, but might not give themselves.
Mhm.
Beyond asking their own employers to give, they simply clam up. Is that okay? Is that considered part of the 100% giving? And a counterpart to that is we have a few board members who represent local government agencies and are non-voting.
Yeah.
Would a foundation consider them part of the 100% giving requirement?
So if they are board members that, are representing government agencies that might have that conflict or may not be able to contribute personally, I think if in that case, you would have to just explain it. So you'd probably have to put in that foundation application, no, you don't have 100% board giving, but for these reasons.
Yeah.
You might also, I mean, again, I don't know the structure of this organization, but you might also make those board members advisory, honorary,
Emeritus, something.
emeritus, ex officio, whatever. But if your construct is such that they need to be sort of full board members, then I would make sure you put a disclaimer in those foundation applications.
Yeah, that makes great sense. So here's a question on your response to a previous question. So, you said to hit it head on, have that conversation. Is that giving conversation with a board member better initiated by the board chair or the executive director, in your opinion?
It depends. Again, it depends. Usually it would be both. But I would say it's more effective when it's a peer-to-peer conversation, but certainly you need that staff support as well. So I would, your board chair will know best what the right combination of participants in that conversation should be. And so I would say just use it as a case-by-case basis.
Perfect. All right. So moving right along.
Yeah. So again, thinking about setting and managing expectations. When we talked about it previous slide, all the different roles, you then can come up with activities that fit within those roles. So these are some examples. I'm not going to go through all of them, but what you might do then is create, if you don't already have one, a menu of ways that they can be involved. And what I have found really useful is by creating some sort of agreement at the beginning of every fiscal year where board members are asked to, commit to something, right? Some financial commitment. And then they're asked to identify what are the ways that they want to be involved in donor relationship building that year. And you also give to them like a little indicator for which quarter they want to be involved. And so then as staff, you can sort of map that out. And a brilliant suggestion I had heard from my colleague Lori Jacobwith a number of years ago was that an organization she worked with had done little report cards. So at every board meeting, the staff member would give each board member their little report card that says, you said you were going to do this, this, and this. This is where you are in that. Can we help schedule that event? Can we, when would be a good time for you to make some thank you calls and so forth? And so it was good because, listen, every board member or most board members are well-intentioned. They really do want to help. They will be eager to sign up for something. And then, right, as we all do, you leave the board meeting and then you go on to do your own things. So really having that accountability partner at the staff level will be important. So coming up with that menu so that they're clear in what it is that you want to do, that you want them to do, and then holding them accountable throughout the year through little reports that are only shared with them and can help keep them accountable. That I think, especially when I've been on boards, I always say to the staff, please hold me accountable because there's so many things that are swirling around and I just need somebody to tell me, I need you to do this, or I need you to do that.
I'm just going to tell you, we had a question that's going to segue us, and is it important that at least one board member has made a planned gift so others view it as an important part of your org's culture of giving?
Yes. I am delighted. I don't know who asked that question, but I am absolutely delighted that plan giving has been brought up, because we as nonprofits are not doing enough to encourage more plan gifts. And, I think it was in 2020, from the 2021 Giving USA report, about 9% of contributed revenue, which was about 79 billion, 9% of that came from bequests. So we have a lot of opportunities to be really socializing the opportunity to leave a legacy gift. And board members, that's one way that you might ask them to consider. And would they be willing to serve as examples? Would they be willing to share their testimonial? Testimonials for plan giving messaging tends to work pretty effectively. So that is a really wonderful way for them to be considering the legacy that they want to leave behind with this organization.
Well, and I think one of the questions, I'll answer this, and you can, react to this as well. In kind, what is the role of in-kind gift? Is, giving is giving. There's lots of ways to give, and it depends where you sort of set these expectations. But you also want to make sure that regardless, I would just throw this in, that you are capturing these through whatever you're doing with your technology, through the way that you bring in donations. And I know many, including us, have ways of trying to record that. But there's a part in terms of, how do you recognize and how do you acknowledge or thank board members in the best way for their contributions that helps to create some additional peer pressure, if you will, and also gratitude. I'm going to throw in, right? So yeah. I added that part.
Yeah, so you can track it. You should be tracking it, and in your reports to the board, boards often get focused on just how much are we hitting, how much are we raising towards our fundraising goal, our budget goal, but also include what's their board total. So you might actually break it down even further. How much is personally contributed? How much is it in kind? So in other words, those soft credits, if you would. And you might also, if you are really promoting plan giving, you might, depending on the comfort level of those board members, you might also say X% of our board members have made a planned gift. I think being really clear in what's the board participation collectively, and what's their average gift, how much total they've been giving in those different ways is important. But if we can go back to this one slide for a second, David, I want to just leave this with you all. You'll have these slides after this presentation, but these are really powerful numbers to be sharing with your own boards. So Penelope Burke is a Canadian researcher. She has spent the last 25 years studying all sorts of donor motivations and retention issues. And one of the things that she found was that when she asked donors, and again, of all levels, if you received a call from a board member within days of making your gift, how would that influence the way you behave, the way you support that organization? I'm going to let these numbers speak for themselves. While there's the statisticians among you will say there's a big discrepancy between what people say they're going to do and what they actually do, the reality is that just the act of that outreach, whether and I will say phone is really still the best, but that act of outreach, personal outreach by a board member who is seen by your average donor as a very busy person, that sends going back to the couple slides ago, that sends that a strong signal of hospitality. They are taking time to say thank you, right? And I had I worked with a board a number of years ago, and I had their development committee chair loved making thank you calls, and she would come into the board meetings glowing, and she would say, I just had the most incredible conversation with this donor, and let me tell you some of the stories she shared. And then you could watch around the room how everyone's sort of demeanor changed, because that was that connection point. So even if your board members are hesitant to call and talk to a complete stranger, you can script them, you can give them the talking points, you can tell them it's okay to leave a voicemail, but these are the things we want you to do, because it really does make a difference. Yeah,
what gets measured gets done, and that was shared by one of our participants. So I think that's a big piece. Okay, I'm gonna keep us moving, and I want to just let you know, if you're asking questions, keep asking them. We haven't forgotten about you. We're going to come back and hit some of these again, but we're going to keep moving so we can make sure we cover the great content here.
Okay, so then we think about when we've talked about all the individual roles, that board members can play in fundraising. Then it comes down to how do we operationalize this at a committee level? And one option is having a development committee that's only board members. And that's fine. I've definitely seen that over the years. The risk is that it's such a small circle of volunteers that you're going to run the risk of burnout. And you might also get the board members who have sort of not have not raised their hand quickly enough for the other committees and sort of get stuck on that one. And then their heart really isn't in it. So that's one option. The second is really thinking about board and non-board members. I actually personally like this one the best because it gives you a nice testing ground for potential board members of the future. So this gives you, it widens the net a little bit more. It lessens the stress that those board members, those few board members who are courageous and valiant to want to be on the development committee. It allows a few more folks to carry the load, if you would. And it also is a great way for past board members to stay involved once they roll off the board. And then the final option, which is definitely not ideal, is no development committee. And I would say, only in extreme circumstances, if you don't have the right board, if you really can't get anyone on, if you don't have the staff to support this committee. This is, I would say, only as a last resort if you can't, if you don't have the staff capacity and you don't have the right board members. But if you can find that blended, so the board and non-board, that's going to be probably your best way forward.
So here we go to number 3.
All right, third, and I did see this in the comments before, in the chat box before, my board doesn't seem to follow through. And it's so often, and I'm sure many of you are going to be feeling this. I think we have a poll for the next one.
We do. It's just going to take me a moment to find it. So keep the right. Sorry, I've got so many things open right now.
Got it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking for it here.
So I see. Okay, here we go.
Oops, sorry.
Okay. So this one, my board doesn't follow through. I know I saw it in the chat that the boards ghost.
I got it.
They tend to ghost you.
There we go. Or your moderator does not follow through. Either way. Here we go. All right, folks, answer quickly. We got to keep on target here. Oh, wow, they are. They're coming right in. We are way up on this one. Actions, actions, not words, right? So I get it. Okay, this is happening. So I'm going to do it. They're still rolling in pretty furiously. So, I'm going to stop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're going to share this one. It started off really, really strong, and it's shared about the same.
Okay. So I was in my mind guessing it was going to be in the 90s. So
it was, but then a few of those on the other side jumped. It was at 96% for the first, until I got down to about 2-1. So then a few people chimed in.
So I'd love to know the secret to those who said no, but that'll be another time.
Yep.
So let's see, let's go to the next so we can close this poll.
Okay, let me stop this and let's move to the next. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they know what you'd like them to do.
Right. So often in our minds, we have expectations and the reality is completely different.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to think about, if we can go to the next slide, how are we very clear from the very beginning? So this comes in a couple different ways. First of all, just in terms of overall job responsibilities as being a board member, be really clear in your job description. If you don't have one, this is a great time to write one. What do you expect from them in terms of time, in terms of meetings? Are there certain meeting requirements that you have? The financial, right? The financial that we've been talking about. How can they be involved in fundraising? That menu that I shared or sample of it a couple slides ago, that's a great way to say in your job description, we would like you to be doing this, this, and this, or play some role in these ways. You can keep it generic on the job description, but then when you get to onboarding them with your menu of different ways that they can be involved, that's where you can be more specific. You also really want to do an orientation. You can do this in a short sort of Zoom or in person whenever we return to in person. Have a little board book that is corresponding to the content that's shared in the orientation meeting that gives them the 101. Who are you? What's your mission? What's your vision? What's your strategic plan? What are your challenges? What do you need from them? This is also a really great opportunity to be clear in your fundraising. What have you done? How have you typically raised your funds? If we can go to the next, you can just advance, David.
Absolutely.
What are your trends? What are your opportunities and challenges? How begin brainstorming? How can they fundraise? How do you need them to be? How can you help them to be successful? All of these are things, I would say, especially the trends and the challenges. This is super important because again, you want to, since they are the innermost circle now, this is the opportunity to say, these are the things that we have been doing in terms of fundraising. This is what's worked. This is what hasn't worked. And then when the default is so often just focusing on the numbers, how are they getting to, how are they doing towards your overall budget goal, your fundraising goal? Then they can see more nuances to why you're successful or not. So I would say at a minimum, this is important to do for your board generally for new board members, but it's also a good thing to do for, on an annual basis, some version of this so that all your board members are all on the same page.
Great. Let's keep it. So here we go. Do they have the fundraising tools to be successful?
So these are all the tools. I think, there are templates and scripts. We assume, again, board members are super successful in their personal and professional lives. They're not going to need to be told how to say things or what to write, but, they're busy people. So if you can make it as turnkey as possible, give them something to start with and they can adapt it. That's going to make it a lot easier. Talking points, if you need them to be part of a meeting, then you'll want to, give them a couple talking points because again, they may not get tripped up. They may, because it's talking about an organization that like yours might be, they may think, oh, I don't know what to say. What are the points I really need to make? Just give them a talking points and then they will take it from there. If you have them part of a donor meeting, give them some background, a little bit about who that donor is, their history with the organization, again, so they feel they understand who this person is. I always recommend as well having a canned call to action because I can't tell you how often I've worked with boards and they will come up to me at some point and say, I had this donor come up to me in this event that we were doing and they said, well, how can I get involved? And I got stuck. I didn't quite know what to say. So again, what are the 3 things you want board members to say in response to how can I help? And so it might be volunteering. It might be making a gift. I wouldn't always, when you first meet someone at a party, you might not say, hey, give a gift to my organization. You might come for a site visit. You might volunteer. There might be an advocacy campaign you want them to be involved in. But what are the 2 or 3 things that they can just roll off the tip of their tongue in response to that? And then there are, software and training, peer-to-peer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would speak to that for just a moment because I think it's really relevant. I love the research showing on the importance of having, the influence that your board has on giving overall. I think also, when you're looking at your boards, there's a lot of evidence to show that if you enable them with technology or with tools of any sort, whether that's just giving them some of these elements, we operate from the place of positive intent that the board members do want to give. They do want to contribute to your organization. They're involved for a reason. So make it easy for them. And peer-to-peer fundraising softwares that do a great job. And I know we have one of those. They really allow you to be able to let the board open their professional and personal networks and share with them. You may be wondering where I am every Saturday morning. Well, let me tell you about the organization I'm involved in. You can craft the messaging for those who just don't have the time or the inclination to want to share the message. You can put together very powerful things that tell your story with impact. So all they really need to do is push a button or two and make that happen. And again, when we talk about all-in-one fundraising solutions, what we're talking about is a unified single database. It's not just related to this, but to other elements. But when it comes to boards, it's about being able to bring in their donations and being able to see everything from a 360-degree view with your organization, so that you can capture the relationships. You may not even be aware of relationships folks have to your board, to other organizations, or that your board members have or start to develop, but it gives you some really good actionable insights.
Yeah, and that's exactly where you want to be able to capture those relationships that your board members have, so that you can report back, say, hey, did you know that so-and-so, that we have tagged as one of your networks has made a gift. And so being able to easily do that is super important, so that those board members can themselves make contribution, so make thank you calls and do their own stewardship.
So this is not a poll because it's open-ended, but we're going to just move right past this. What other ways have you found have helped your boards to fundraise? Okay, so nothing is off limits. Let us know what you've been able to do. Is it candy? Is it peer pressure? Is it just enabling the tools? Anything you want to share with us that's been helpful, I think would be great for the whole group to see. And just drop it in the chat box. Like I said, there's already a session of its own going on there, and I'll certainly call some of those out where we have an opportunity.
Okay, so I'm a pretty candid person, and so when we were asked earlier about those board members who don't give, what do we do? I believe in really being open and transparent, and so I'm being candid. So for those board members, when you're seeing them get stuck or seeing hesitation, ask them what's holding them back. It might be as simple as that, or it might be these other ways where you're using mission moments to really connect them back to the work that you're doing, connecting them with donors, like the example I shared earlier with the board member who would just be elated talking to donors to their organization. You will want to ensure that you're giving them the orientation, the tools, the template, the training that they need. For training, especially, you might do role plays with them. You might give them some case studies of some of your donors and the examples of as fundraisers yourself. You might give them some of those examples to say, okay, how would you have handled this? Or these are some of the scenarios that we've encountered, or these are some of the things that we've heard when we've heard no.
Yeah.
And so really,
I love that, Barbara, because I just think of this in lots of different environments. People will maybe not speak what they're experiencing or what their fear is, but when they're sharing it, they find they're not alone, and you can have a little fun with it. So just have people be creative with the kinds of reasons that they're hearing, or what's happening when they go to ask somebody, or what's going on in their own minds, and then be able to call it out. And you start to see heads nodding like crazy.
Exactly, for sure. So, we want to indirectly address that fear of rejection, because nobody wants to hear no. So really help them to think about, again, who are the ideal people? I know in one of the comments earlier, there was that sense of transactional fundraising. So if they ask somebody in their network for a gift, they're going to ask them for a gift, and it becomes this round and round endless cycle. So it goes back to then identifying and discussing with them, who are your ideal donors that they need to be thinking about, going back to people that they know whose personal philanthropy aligns with your mission. That has to be part of the qualifications that they're thinking about. So then it gets out of that transactional, mindset of, who do I know? I'm going to ask anybody, and then they're going to ask me, and gosh, I'm never going to get out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to keep moving ahead, folks. We have lots of great shares in terms of suggestions, but I'm going to give you a tease. Stick with us to the end. We're going to be hitting as many of these as we can during the Q&A. So we're almost there.
Okay, so I alluded to this before. We want to ensure that donors see behind the hood, under the hood, so to speak. So when we only allow them to focus on the numbers, which of course are important during their board meetings, we also they lose sight of what happens, all the hard work that you as fundraisers are doing to get those numbers. So sharing metrics like donor retention, average gift, You might also show some trends. What are you seeing in terms of movement from mid to major level giving, or upgrades, or first-time donors? Those sorts of metrics will also show the health and vibrancy of your donor base. So, for example, when I was attending a client's board meeting once towards the end of the calendar year, and they were talking about where they were, and I can't remember what year it was, but there were some economic factors that were causing giving to slow. And the board, they weren't as close to where they were in their goals as they had been the previous year. But the staff had learned how to calculate the donor retention and the average gift and some of the other trend lines I just described. And so when they were sharing this report out to the board, they could say, yeah, but our average gift is going up, which means that our donors are more engaged, or we've brought on X number of new donors. Our donor retention has been growing over the period of time, and so forth. And then I could see that the board actually felt a little less panicked because they knew that the overall health of their donor file was in fact pretty good. So those give that indicate to the board members that there are so many more things that go into successful fundraising. Also, sharing their reports on their own giving. I do recommend having a board goal collectively. That helps everyone keep sight of where they need to move as a group. So having those, not only what percentage of our board are making gifts, where are we, what are our trends as a board in terms of total amount that we've contributed as a group, and what's that goal that we want to work towards. Again, it's going to vary, the actual individual gift is going to vary from board member to board member, but if everyone's working towards a common goal, that can be more successful because they see that they can see the exact role that they can play. And then self-evaluation. This is such an important tool for the overall health and performance of the board. It gives them an opportunity to both survey themselves and their performance. And there are lots of different examples that you can find that give them, that sort of evaluate different areas of their governing responsibilities. There's also a way for you to ask board members to evaluate themselves. So again, going back to those board members who maybe aren't really as performing up to their fullest potential, this is a good way for them to reflect. And if you are finding yourselves in that situation where those board members, where you've got very inconsistent performance and engagement of your board members, you've been really challenged to get some of those board members to do things that they said they're going to do. Let's see how they find themselves, how they rate themselves. So there's doing the board survey as a whole, and then doing board surveys of themselves. Those two exercises are really important. And then you can use that as a way to say, does what they think as a board and individually align with how we as staff and executive leaders feel? And are we all in sync with each other in how we can work and collaborate to fundraise? So this is a great way then to level set, to realign expectations, and to have those one-on-one conversations with board members who maybe just this isn't the priority for them, and it's pretty evident. That's a really great way then to have that conversation. And so when we come to that point, then we might say, we're going to just bless and release them.
So which is a more eloquent way of saying get off.
Right. Bless and release.
Yeah, so that moves us to this.
Exactly. And so we want to, use this as a way to say, maybe it's a time issue. Maybe this really isn't the right use of that person's energies for lots of different reasons. So we'll use that as an opportunity to have that conversation. Term limits, for sure, I would say if you don't have them, put them in place as quickly as you can, because it helps to avoid burnout. It helps to avoid sort of an insular approach to your networks. And it also makes it almost impossible to bless and release those board members who are not as effective.
Okay, great. So I'm going to take a quick, let's call it a commercial interruption, but really we've had a number of questions regarding software and services, and how, not only related to turning your board into fundraising superstars, but essentially board members are people too, and we all know that now, right? So we're looking at that. We're going to say this makes sense for everyone in your organization, and you really open that wide. It's a fundraising culture, and that's something that's important to look at. So from an Ariva standpoint, we offer Exceed Further, the all-in-one solution. It truly is an all-in-one solution. It's an all-in-one cloud-based digital fundraising, donor relationship management, healthcare, hospitality applications, and auction software. I'm not going to run through all of this, but we are going to let you know that we are also offering free fundraising consultations. I would tell you, if you haven't gathered by now, we are with not the nonprofit community for good. We are here to help you in any way we can. That might be with our software. It very likely may just be helping you with a question or two, or helping you to look at some strategies. And we're here to provide that consultation to you. It's not a hard sell. That's really not our approach. So I'm going to share with you just an opportunity to let us know if you'd like to have us contact you for a consultation. We'll be coming to the questions and answers in a moment, and I'll be going through that as well as we complete this review. But everything is coming into a unified database with Exceed Further. It provides you a 360-degree view. We often find that folks can eliminate up to 4 solutions that are feeding into separate databases, as well as Excel folders, Manila folders, boxes full of records, and just bringing everything together for a unified approach. With your digital fundraising, all of the best practices implemented, client services and auction software. And we really relish the importance of data. We really, truly get that. And that's one of our distinctive factors. So I'm going to just move ahead through these as I look at trying to do 2 things at once, folks. Thank you. You can see some of the solutions. Again, we'll provide this to you. But if you would like a consultation, it could be 5 minutes. You ask a question about anything you saw today, or just taking a look at particular questions. If you want to look at the software under the hood, we can show you that. But we also love to show you some client examples of how they've succeeded with some of the solutions we talk about. Peer-to-peer fundraising is one of those that really relates. And I also would just let you know in a nutshell, several people in the chat, as you saw, talked about challenges, fundraising challenges. Peer-to-peer fundraising challenges, are best done coupled with a team fundraising approach. And we have a team fundraising application that is just unparalleled. So that's a key piece of this as well. Everything is mobilely optimized, mobilely friendly, and completely responsive. And if you have not come to this conclusion by now, everybody has their phone with them all the time. Even the age-old thing that our donors don't use phones, they aren't using technology, has been thrown very much to the wayside by the times we've been through over the last 2 years. There's been a great deal of digital transformation. If you wanted to talk to your grandkids, for example, you wanted to talk to people you were distanced, you had to get very comfortable with the phone. And it's been a great move forward as we continue to blend that with real life, technology. We also have the full capabilities for virtual live hybrid auctions, bidding, text-based solutions through MaestroSoft and Ariva Company. All of the solutions are listed here. And you can see that we are providing, we don't just provide, someone had brought up a question about, we're limited in terms of, marketing, development people trying to plan for our events and fundraisers. Our board members may or may not be involved. One of the things I would say, hopefully, you have lots of choices out there. I can tell you, we provide full professional services through MaestroSoft, which help you to be able to do your events from A to Z, soup to nuts, however you want to look at that. And that includes auctioneers, it includes auction consulting, it includes strategies that are just unparalleled, whether it's golf fundraisers, auctions, or events. And everything's mobile optimized there as well. And like I said, if you would like a free fundraising consultation, I had put up that solution. I will leave that open, or that poll. I'll leave it open for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll have an opportunity also, if you did get to answer that, to drop a note in the chat box that you'd love to have us contact you. And we'll put up that poll again. But I wanted to just let you know that we are really with Nonprofits for Good. I mean, it's in a very kind way, we're always there. That's one of our differentiators. You can pick up a phone, you can speak to a person, you can connect with us. Our co-founders, our co-founder and chairman, Susan Packard Orr, David Blyer, who is our co-founder and CEO, and everyone on our team has been in the nonprofit community. They've been where you are, they are where you are. We get you and we understand. So we're here with you for good. And then, just to Windmill Hill Consulting, if you wanted to share a little tee up of what you do and where you may be able to help folks, Barbara, I would love to have you do that, because what you do is simply phenomenal for anyone who hasn't gathered that already.
Thanks, David. Yeah, so you are welcome to check out Windmill Hill Consulting's website for more resources. We work with organizations of all sizes to really help them raise more money and give their staff and their boards the tools that they need to be successful. That comes in the form of development assessments, and it comes in the form of donor communication strategy, board trainings and staff trainings, campaign counsel, mid to major strategies, and sort of everything in between. So there are lots of different areas that we will focus on depending on the organization. So check out the website, sign up for our newsletter, and feel free to reach out if you have questions.
There's another poll up. It's not the same one you just looked at, but this one's, if you'd like to stay connected with Barbara, one, drop us a note in the chat box if you don't get to answer this, but we have this up right now, and people are certainly raising their hands. Barbara, as I understand, what you'll do is you'll add them to your newsletter, some useful information, and what can someone expect if they want to stay connected with you?
Yeah, for sure. We'll make sure that you're added to the newsletter, and you'll receive emails from us, a couple times a month that updates you on some events that we might be doing, or we've got a newsletter that we send out as well. So there are lots of little nuggets and tools that we like to share with our audience.
That's great. So apparently that was compelling, because a bunch of people just answered again that they would love to once they heard, yep, we're here for good, just like Barbara is. And we're going to share this with you. And I'll just remind you, we're going to be doing another section that you'll be hearing about announced very soon, in about a month. And so, Barbara is a great partner to Ariva and works with us in MaestroSoft on all kinds of fronts. Just cannot speak more highly of what she does. I am going to move to questions and answers now, as you saw. And I'm going to have these polls interchange here again for folks that might want to reach out to either Ariva or Barbara or both, so that you can catch that. And again, leave information in the chat box. Drop any questions, any comments in right now. We're going to do a quick session, probably about 5 minutes of just kind of running through some of these things. And again, if you have to leave, you have to leave. But you don't know what to expect here. This could be the information you need to get that board up and running. So if you can stay, please do. So I'm just going to kind of run through some of the questions that have come in no particular order, Barbara. We have a question here. Our organization, well, I sort of answered this one, but I'm just going to share it with everyone. Our organization is having trouble hiring a development marketing person. So a lot of the planning for fundraisers events is falling on the development committee, which consists of board members. Do you have any tips or advice for this type of situation on either the hiring part or the committee managing, please? Anything to add there?
I would say, first of all, make sure that you can manage realistic expectations for your development committee. So it's great that they want to step in and fill gaps where you have at the staff level, but you don't want them to feel like they've got to become those full-time staff people, right? Yeah. So I think setting that expectation, and then also consider bringing on some part-time development staff on an interim, or marketing on an interim basis. I think there's a lot of opportunities for some fundraisers to do little short projects. Maybe they might be in between jobs. So I think that's a wonderful way to sort of fill your gap, and also bring on some extra hands to help with that.
I would add as well, something just to throw out there, don't overlook your volunteers, across the board, and really understanding the skill set of folks that you have. I know we talked a little bit about our software. You may have seen a volunteer module, and I know folks are signing up for some consultations and demos, but wherever you happen to do your work with volunteers, it's important to be able to give well-defined volunteer roles and understand what you need. So, I know we allow for that, for you to be able to really spell out, what kinds of things are you interested in? What types of things are your skills, or even just setting up specific volunteer roles, essentially a volunteer job description that shares what kinds of things you'd like to have someone do. And you may find that somebody who is not necessarily either giving as much as they would love to, and is involved with you, looks at this and they say, oh my gosh, you need that? I do that. Here you are. You've got some ways to bring things together. So those are some great things to consider there as well. I would tell you, we have the poll up again if you want a consultation on anything, ideas or strategies. Again, they can be very short, can be an hour, could be whatever it is, not a hard sell. And we'll be putting up Barbara's information as well. I'm just going to let you know, we have a lot of folks saying thank you for the presentation. I would let you know, I'm just going to kind of scroll through these. I don't know if you have anything you want to add as I'm saying that, Barbara.
Nope. I think
Okay, so I've got people just saying they love peer-to-peer. They've got people talking about a few folks who worked with Barbara, we worked with Exceed. Okay, here's an interesting one. Okay, so now you have something about Simone Joyeu's website. You want to talk about that again? Someone asked, what is that?
Yeah, so Simone Joyeux was, she passed away last year. She was one of the grand dames, if you would, of fundraising. She was an incredible thought leader, an incredible trainer, fundraiser herself. And so she has written a number of books. She's got an incredible website. She was sort of one of the ones I always looked up to in terms of expertise and knowledge. And so her website and her book, she wrote a book, I think the name is escaping me, but if you look on Amazon, you'll be able to find it.
Okay,
but her
great.
website has a lot of great resources, including a sample board evaluation. And so it's quite a long one. So you may not necessarily want to use all those questions for your board, but take a look at it because it's pretty comprehensive.
So I'm going to run through some of the feedback, and it was back when we were asking about what have you done that's worked well. Okay, so I'm going to throw some of these out, and then maybe you can just react to them in general, and then we'll close out. But looking here, let's see, we're looking at of the organization. Bylaws identify committee as either of the board, audit, finance, executive, or of the corporation. Based on New York law, this distinction elevates committees of the board. Recent changes to bylaws elevated development to be of the board. That elevation resulted in significantly increased participation in various fundraising, volunteer recruitment, and sponsorship activities from the board. It's also increased direct communication from members with the development staff, especially in thank you calls. Anything to add? That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that, to our audience.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think
that's perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these things work, and we've got, someone said here, facts tell, stories sell. It's the same person gave us the other nugget. It has to be authentic so that the board member is talking, that the person the board member is talking to knows that the board member genuinely, capitalized, cares about, and is invested in the organization. And then we have, I'm in the process of bringing on a new CRM that combines all of these. Excellent. Look forward to reviewing the slides. Yes, you'll have the slides. Peer-to-peer has worked. VIP virtual events hosted by a board director. Mm-hmm. Those are great. Having a giving session, and talking about that. Being very intentional about showing them the impact of their giving so they see the success they're part of. Peer-to-peer challenge, I share a little bit about that. And making a team, team fundraising or peer-to-peer challenge in the general, right? Or even just leveraging teams depending on your organization. I shared this with you as we were prepping for this, but we had an organization that did a playoff of the Kentucky Derby, and they just really did a piece where everyone had their horse. They got to create their own images for jockeys, and they got to see the neat graphics showing who was winning, and it really resonated with the personality of their board and their passion. That was ACTEC Foundation, a great client, and they had worked with us, but they had at least one team committee member, executive committee member, actually in this case, that was passionate about the Derby, and a lot of folks that chimed in, but they turned to the executive committee to find out a little bit more about what they really thought, what they, to find out more about them. And then they sort of threw out some idea sessions that helped. Communication, weekly email summaries, direct asks. I need you to blank, 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 and invitations to community events. Pair them up with me or with someone who is experienced to work as a team for an appropriate interaction with a donor or prospect. I love that. Acknowledgement of board contributions. It says here to shame the others, let's say to inspire the others. Communications committee provides templates for posting on social media sites. job openings on LinkedIn, events on Facebook, etc., arranging a tour to see a program site, clear expectations during the recruitment phase. I love the idea, you folks snuck in a few more, the idea of a template. By the way, creating templates for peer-to-peer or other things are an important part, and then having them stored within your system, including them in specific trainings and sharing resources to help them understand and be more comfortable. Role playing is awesome, like we said. And then, there are some others here as well, but I think we're probably closing in on our time and your time. I'm going to actually take this and leave the questions and comments open, because if you respond back that you would like to, have a quick connect with us and learn more about strategies for engaging your board, we'd love to do so. If you have a question that didn't get asked, we can certainly respond back to you after the fact. This is a little overview on Ariba and MaestroSoft, but after the session, you'll be directed back to the Ariba site and an opportunity to be able to sign up for a consultation or demo as well. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the star of the show here and really just add, number one, express my thanks to Barbara O'Reilly. And you're just phenomenal. Lots of great info. It is currency for everyone who is here. And I'm going to give you a chance to just give any final thoughts or thank yous or any other notes that you want to make out to our audience.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to say thank you to you, David, and the Ariba team for having me back. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have attended and carved out a little more than an hour of your busy days to talk about boards. And I know that you all are working as hard as you can in these crazy, crazy times, but you just know that you are not alone. We've got tons of resources that you can access, and hopefully you're coming away from this training today with a little bit more inspiration.
Wonderful. Thank you again, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, and may this just be a wonderfully lucky year for you. All right. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye, everyone.